So Klaus Schwab, thank you so much for joining us today ahead of this virtual Davos agenda. It's very clear that the devastation from the pandemic could be felt far and wide in terms of livelihoods, in terms of people losing their jobs. How do we rebuild better? And is there a real purpose from governments to rebuild better, or are they still just fighting fire?
Yes, of course, we are still in a situation where we have to fight the virus. But we also have to look at the future, and it's now a historical moment, a crucial moment to rebuild the future, to reset our policies. And here, certainly, we have to take the lessons from the pandemic, which we had to fight and still have to fight. And we have to build a world which is more resilient, more inclusive, and also more sustainable. And in order to have a big kickoff and to use this opportunity, we organize next week the Davos Agenda Week as a kind of mobilization of all the spirits, all the good ideas and so on, to show visions for the future.
Who will show the way, Mr. Schwab? So there's a book. We heard also this rebuilding better from the IMF, frankly, almost from the start of the pandemic. But does the Biden administration need to show the rest of the world how it's done?
No, we will have, of course, key leaders next week assembled. It's a little bit early for the new U.S. administration, but John Kerry will certainly present his ideas about climate change. But we need also a mindset change. And I think we are also living in a very critical phase for how we are doing business. We are moving really into the age of what I would call the age of stakeholder capitalism. I think we have seen in the pandemic that companies who are committed to stakeholder responsibility have performed better because they have invested into the long-term vitality of the company. We will next week also show that we walk the talk, and we will announce that about 50 of the top global companies have committed under the leadership of our International Business Council not only to talk about, let's say, stakeholder responsibility, but to report on, in very concrete metrics, about how they are performing.
Do you believe, Klaus Schwab, that governments and world leaders are ready for the challenge, that they will, try and really address inequality, not just talk about it, but take concrete steps so that there's a real difference in 12 months, 18 months?
I think there is now a new willingness. We have seen it in the statements from many capitals around the world. We have seen, let's say, the positive signs of the US government by rejoining the WHO, rejoining the Paris Agreement. I think there could be a new renaissance in international relations. Of course, we still will remain competitors, but and we have differences of opinion particularly among the big blocs in the world, the big powers. But I think the time has come to enter again into a dialogue and to remind ourselves that we are part of a global community, and at the end, also the virus has shown us that we are globally interconnected. And again, a very good sign that the American new administration is joining probably the COVAX arrangement, which is a major effort of international cooperation to make sure that the vaccines are fairly distributed around the world.
Klaus Schwab, do we need to radically rethink capitalism?
Yes, we have to make sure that we integrate into the notion of capital, where we feel now, when we talk about capital, it's mainly financial capital. But we also have social capital, we have human capital, and we have natural capital. And if we want to regain trust for capitalism, we have to embrace all those different functions. It's not an either or. I think a company will succeed very well if it really takes into account all those dimensions, if people feel it serves society, and it's also in the best interest of shareholders if the company works on its own sustainability long term. And the own sustainability comes mainly from being trustworthy.
Klaus Schwab, it was only a year ago that we were in Davos, starting to hear about this new virus, this novel virus in Wuhan. No one at the time was really predicting we'd be here today, 12 months later. Why are economists, chief executives, even world leaders so bad at predicting these big crises?
We have worked and we have shown in our global risk report since many years that the virus is a danger, is a high risk. Actually, CEPI and Gavi, the two global organizations which are now mainly involved in fighting the virus on a global basis, have been created in Davos. The lesson which we draw is we have to make sure that when we raise the voice, that we follow up and enough attention is given to those risks. In this respect, we just published also our newest risk report, and it's very clear that the world has to undertake tremendous efforts to be more resilient, because we may face other viruses, but we have to become much more risk conscious. And probably we have to invest into our resilience as a global community, as a global economy.
Klaus Schwab, this is your new book that just came out literally, I think, or it's coming out in 1 or 2 days. We have the book cover, and you focus also on the planet. So it's Rebuilding Better, a global economy that works for everyone, including people and the planet. There has been a lot of talk about what we can do for the planet. Does this really translate into action? Are you satisfied with the number of commitments that chief executives and world leaders are pledging?
Yes, I see a tremendous effort in terms of rallying now behind net zero, not only governments but business. We have a number of initiatives at the World Economic Forum. For example, we work sector by sector how to decarbonize those industries. So there is an awareness now, it's generally accepted that climate change, if we do not tackle with it, could be the next big, let's say, virus with much more damaging and long-term consequences compared to COVID-19.
Are you confident, Klaus Schwab, that you'll be able to do the Singapore summit in person, given the way things are going?
We hope, you always have to hope for the best and to prepare for the worst. We hope with the vaccines, now also again the program of the US vaccinating 100 million people in 100 days. We see it a fast, let's say, an acceleration of the vaccination in many countries. I'm hopeful, but I'm also concerned because as long as we do not distribute those vaccines on a fair level around the world, we may have new forms of the virus coming back, hunting us even in those countries where people or a majority of people are already vaccinated. So we have to be, I would say we have two scenarios. A very optimistic one, that by summer we are finally in a situation where we can at least declare partial victory about the virus. But we may be hunted by the virus for quite some time. And this means, again, how important it is to tackle this issue on a global basis.